Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Globrush. Globrush got rich designing high-tech weapons, but then he lost all of his gems gambling. When Captain Copperbeard found him in a tavern, penniless and dejected, he brought him aboard the Curse of the Cosmos, where he became the gunsmith. Here we have the different forms of Globrush. He reminds me of a lot of Sphereness, except with a gun, so already I love this monster design, and you're gonna find out he's a pretty interesting monster. As of the time recording this video, there are a total of 23 light legendary monsters, so I'm going to be comparing Globrush to the remaining 22 light legendary monsters. And so we start off with power. 3454 is actually the second highest power stat for light legendary monsters. In first place is 3498, which Taiga and Lathe have. After that, Cassia, Kingdara, and Bella, and now Globrush have. So from the power stat alone, you can deduce he's going to be an attacker. His life, however, 26,239, although it may seem kinda high, it's actually not really that high. Light monsters tend to be incredibly tanky, and a life like this actually puts him in 20th place along with Obsidian. So unfortunately, as is the case with many attackers, they tend to have a pretty low life. And as for his speed, 3,421, this actually puts him in 10th place along with Monkey. So he's not the fastest and he's not the slowest, he's somewhere in the middle. And as for his trait, he's immune to blind, which you can argue is or isn't a good trait. When talking about light monsters, you gotta keep in mind that a lot of them tend to have blinding skills, so it is good in that respect. But one of the most common defense light monsters is General Ingvar. General Ingvar can daze you, he can blind you, but he can also stun you, so it might have been better if Globrush had a stun immunity. That way he could also be more useful in other team wars like Metal Wars and Earth Wars. Anyways, that is what it is, so let's jump into skills. For default, we have Galaxy Shooter and Star Projector. Default skills, nothing interesting there. Let's talk about the Ultimate Galaxy Splitter. Deals insane light damage to all enemies, may blind all targets, may burn all targets. So this is a light based AoE that deals 80 damage to all of the enemy monsters, and aside from dealing insane damage, it also blinds them and it applies burning. Now the burning and blind, I love that aspect, it is an amazing effect. The only thing that could have made the skill better is if it was special based damage, and you guys have probably heard me say that over and over again. The fact that Globrush an attacker, it would have really benefited him to have a special based attack, because light monsters tend to be incredibly tanky. General Ingvar, for example, has a life of over 31k. Not to mention, it's pretty easy to rank up General Ingvar because he's available in the team shop. So having a light based attack, that's not going to be doing too much damage on General Ingvar. But I guess as a bonus, it does apply burning, so you can easily cut away at Ingvar's life assuming the burning lands. Overall, this is a pretty good ultimate. It could have been better, but it's still really good. So moving on over to skills group 1, we have Andromeda, Beam, Mini Cluster, and Proto Galaxy. Aside from having really amazing names, none of these skills are really worth talking about, so let's move on over to skills group 2. And we start things off with a pretty powerful attack. Canis Major Projection, deals heavy light damage, requires cooldown. This is a light based attack that deals 60 damage, it costs 28 stamina, and it has a 2-turn cooldown. Now the fact that it has a 2-turn cooldown is what I don't like about this skill. I really wish it would have had a 1-turn cooldown. You would have been able to utilize this skill a lot more. And I'll get a little more into that as soon as I talk about the next skill. Pocket Supernova, deals moderate light damage to all enemies. Targets receive extra damage from light attacks, requires cooldown. This is an AoE skill that costs 37 stamina, it has a 2-turn cooldown, and it makes the enemy weak to light attacks, which means all of your light attacks are going to be 80% stronger for the following 3 turns. Not to mention, this only has a 2-turn cooldown, which means for the whole duration of a game, if a game was to go on forever, all the enemy could potentially be weak to light attacks. This also means that if you use Pocket Supernova, and then wait 2 turns and use it again, Pocket Supernova is going to benefit from its own effect. And Pocket Supernova, instead of dealing 35 damage, it's actually going to be 80% stronger, and it's also going to reset the light weakness. And another scenario where you can really utilize this skill, it depends on the rarity for Team Wars. If it's legendary, epic, or maybe if you have a ranked uncommon, if you happen to use Pocket Supernova and then your light monster can go, it can benefit from the enemies having light weakness. Magellanic Shape, deals moderate special damage, may blind target, requires cooldown. Here we have a special based attack that deals 45 damage to the enemy monster, it costs 28 stamina and has a 1-turn cooldown, and it also gives blind. Blind, as many of you know, reduces the enemy's accuracy by 50%, which means the chance of them landing a hit on you is significantly reduced, especially if they're trying to land an AoE against you. And so blind is pretty much the next best thing to being able to immobilize. If you can't stun, if you can't freeze, if you can't possess, you definitely want to blind the enemy monster. And so there is quite a handful of light monsters that are immune to blind, but like I already mentioned, General Ingvar is the common defense monster, so you don't really need to worry about those monsters being immune to blind. Ingvar, as many of you know, has tough. 35% of the time, effects won't land against him. So I guess it doesn't really matter whether you're trying to immobilize him or whether you're trying to blind him, the chance of either effect landing is the same. Now the one thing about him being blind is if you actually manage to blind them, keep in mind that Ingvar does have encouragement, which means he can get rid of that blind, whereas if he was frozen or something, that wouldn't be able to happen. So that is a counter argument against blind, but nonetheless blind is still really good, and this is a special based attack, and given the fact that Globrush will be an attacker, it means that he's going to be running 1 or 2 strength runes. This can be a really good way to take out the General Ingvar. And so you may want to consider running this skill, plus not to mention it has a 1-turn cooldown, which means after you use this skill, you can use another special base attack and you can come back to this skill. So you definitely want to think about running this skill. And so now we can move on to skills group 3, Triangulum Laser. Deals massive light damage, requires cooldown. Triangulum Laser is a light based attack that deals 70 damage, costs 28 stamina, but it has a high 3-turn cooldown. Now I really don't like the cooldown on this skill because it makes it really hard to cycle. The 70 damage though is amazing. The fact that it's light based, it could have been better if it was special based, but because it is a light based attack, you're going to have no trouble when hitting the enemy non-light monster. And quite possibly, if you're actually able to use Pocket Supernova first, and then use Triangulum Laser, even against an enemy light monster, even though they're extremely tanky, if they don't have any life rune on, and you have like 2 high level strength runes, you should probably be able to knock out that monster. So it goes without saying that you definitely want to run this skill. Next up is Galactic Tide. This skill deals moderate light damage to all enemies and it requires cooldown. So Galactic Tide is a light based AoE that deals 45 damage to all of the enemy monsters, it costs 36 stamina and it has a 3-turn cooldown. And unlike the other times when I say it would have been better if it was special based, it actually works in this case thanks to once again his attack Pocket Supernova. Because now you can realistically start off the game with Pocket Supernova, make the enemies weak to light attacks, and on the following turn use Galactic Tide, so instead of 45 damage, it's actually going to be 80% stronger. Now the thing about this little 2-turn AoE combo is that 1, both AoEs have a 90% accuracy, so there's obviously a higher chance to miss than normal, and 2, even if you do this combo, I highly doubt you're going to be taking out the enemy light monster. Like I already mentioned, they're extremely tanky. General Ingvar, for example, has 31k life, and that's just base life. If he's ranked up, he has higher life. If he has at least 1 life rune, he has even higher life. So I highly doubt this combo would actually work to take out the whole enemy team. I guess it would depend on your strength runes and the runes on the enemy, so I guess at the end of the day, it's worth trying. You should utilize the combo and see if it works. If you ever find yourself facing General Ingvar, I think the most important thing to do is to take him out right away, because if you don't take him out and he gives encouragement to his team, it can be an extremely difficult battle. So I highly doubt you want to do Pocket Supernova, Galactic Tide, and then Triangulum Laser. Most likely you want to go Pocket Supernova and Triangulum Laser to begin with, just to wipe out that General Ingvar. And so because of that, that's going to be my main counter argument to not running Galactic Tide. You can run the skill if you want to, but I'm actually not going to recommend it. And anyway, the last skill we have is Black Matter. Deals heavy special damage, may blind target, may burn target, requires cooldown. Black Matter is a special based attack that deals 50 damage, it costs 31 stamina, it has a 2-turn cooldown, and it blinds and burn. So in terms of the effect of this skill, it's pretty much like the ultimate skill, except it's not an AoE, and it's special based instead of light based, but it still does the blind and burning, which I love. And Black Matter is going to be like the perfect skill to use against General Ingvar, because even if you don't land both burning and blind, hopefully you can at least land one of them, and regardless of which it is, it's going to be really good. If you blind Ingvar, he's not going to be able to land hits on you. If you burn Ingvar, well, that's 15% of his life, and if he does happen to do encouragement before you burn him, then he's only going to be recovering 5% health every turn. And so I certainly think this is another must-have skill. And so now we can move on to the skill set. For runes, you want to go the typical attacker rune setup, 1 speed rune and 2 strength rune, and as far as the skill set, you have different options. Now for me personally, when a monster has a really powerful skill like Triangulum Laser, when it deals 70 damage, honestly when it deals like 60 plus damage, when I'm pretty sure that it can one-hit an enemy monster, I'm okay with it, and I'm not really that comfortable running an AoE, because in the majority of wars, I just don't feel like the AoE is needed, because if you start the game off by knocking out one of the enemy monsters, it's a 3 against 2 battle, and if the rarity is uncommon or below, it's pretty much a 3 against 1 battle. It's just the legendary monster you really have to concern yourself with. Keep in mind that you yourself also have the rarity monster. So if anything, your rarity monster can just immobilize the enemy rarity monster, or maybe your rarity monster can one-hit the enemy rarity monster. The rarity monster shouldn't worry too much. So because of that little bit, I really don't like running AoEs too much when I can one-hit the enemy monster. Instead, I favor more single skills, especially when the single skill can do some sort of effect, and when it's special based, because now I'm gonna have skills to use against the enemy light monster, in this case, most likely a General Ingvar. So I definitely recommend Triangulum Laser, Black Matter, and Magellanic Shape. For the 4th and final skill, it would have to be Project Supernova, just because I imagine there's going to be team wars where you're going to have to start the game off with Project Supernova just to make the enemy Ingvar weak to light attacks and then finish him off with Triangulum Laser. And that's just my personal preference for the skill set. Another skill set you can do is Pocket Supernova, Canis Major Projection, Triangulum Laser, and then one of the special based attacks, most likely Black Matter, or if you want to, you can even use Galactic Tide. And then if you think that the 70 damage may be overkill, maybe you can just do Pocket Supernova, Galactic Tide, Canis Major Projection, and then Black Matter, but I would personally have to advise against that just because that 70 damage, that's a significant difference from 60 damage. Oh, and I guess I should probably expand on why I'm not a big fan of the Pocket Supernova, Canis Major Projection, Triangulum Laser combo. The thing I don't like about this skill set is that you have to start the game off with Pocket Supernova, and on the following turn use either Canis Major Projection or Triangulum Laser on one of the enemy monsters, and then on the third turn use one of the other skills that you didn't use on the previous turn. Which, now that I think of it, I guess isn't too bad. You could also start the game off with Triangulum Laser, take out the enemy non-light monster, and then use Pocket Supernova to target the General Ingvar, and then use Canis Major Projection, but then if that's the case you don't really benefit from Pocket Supernova if Ingvar still stays alive, in which case I guess it'd be the best to have Black Matter. I don't know, now that I'm actually talking myself through it, it's not that bad of a skill set either, but again, it ultimately just comes down to preference. My preference would be Triangulum Laser, Black Matter, Magellanic Shape, and Pocket Supernova. The other skill set I'm proposing that I originally thought wasn't that great, but it's honestly not that bad either, is Pocket Supernova, Canis Major Projection, Triangulum Laser, and Black Matter. But like I usually say, at the end of the day, it's your monster, feel free to choose whatever skill set you want, and also be sure to let me know what skill set that's actually going to be and what runes you're going to be putting on your monster. With that being said, thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. And like always, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.